Welcome to A Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser. Ron Courser and Associates are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner. He is president and founder of Ron Courser and Associates, helping us chart our course through retirement. Ron Courser, CFP, here with us once again. Ron, we appreciate your guidance.
Well, good morning, Peter. Good morning to everybody listening to today's program. We got an interesting topic. And I always smile when I think about this because I'm reminded of how people respond when I ask them the question, are you afraid of going broke in retirement? And sometimes I get this glassy stare and their head starts to go up and down, but nothing comes out of their mouth because I think they're feeling what that might feel like. So we're going to talk about not going broke in retirement. It's easy to talk about, and it's probably easier to just sit on a radio program and give advice. The hard part is actually doing it. But I want everybody to know that there's absolutely no need that you have to go and get broke in retirement to retire or have to worry about those kinds of things. Give us a call at 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. Why would you want to call us? Because maybe the idea, even though it doesn't impact you, but the idea, the possibility, no matter how small, that you might go broke in retirement is something you'd like to talk to us about. We're good at kind of putting all these questions that people have into a funnel and funneling them down until we get to critical facts. What do we call critical facts? Those are the things you absolutely have to know. You know, it's not the confusion. It's not, well, I heard this is good and I heard that's bad and I heard this is what you should do. It really pertains to creating a really good idea of what it is you need to do with the questions you need to ask a financial professional such as us so that you can start together, you can start to put together a plan that not only makes sense to you, but accomplishes your goals and makes sure that you have enough money to live on to maintain your lifestyle. Because that's what we're really talking about, isn't it? Maintaining our lifestyle in retirement for as long as you live. God lets you live to be 150, you'll still have enough money in retirement to do those things you like to do. I don't know what I'd like to do if I'm 150, but I do pray to be 100. So I'm going to find out that anyhow, I think.
Well, Ron, so much packed in there. And I think there's justifiable concern and fear, but also those fears can be addressed. That concern can be minimized or alleviated through proper planning. And you talk on the program so often about how to structure the plan and the planning process that you offer there at Ron Courser and Associates, getting that plan, the Course to Retirement plan, in people's hands. Just that step alone is really going to go a long way in helping people to address this potential and this concern of running out of money in retirement.
Yeah, and you know, the plan is an interesting idea if you think about it. There's all kinds of ways to plan. You can say, well, I have a plan. There was a famous boxer who said once that, yeah, plan. Everybody's got a plan until I punch him in the mouth.
Mike Tyson, famous words there. Yeah, famous quote.
And I think sometimes people have created plans that can't withstand a punch in the mouth. But it is important. It's important to understand that a plan is more than, well, you have X number of dollars. If only you take 4% out every year, you're going to be fine. Don't worry. Be happy. See you next year. That's not a plan, ladies and gentlemen. That's a hope. It's based on a dream. It's based on, man, I really hope this works. And there's a lot of fear in it because a lot of times, think about this. What's worse? The fact that you're absolutely going to run out of money, or the fact that before you run out of money for the previous 15 or 20 years, you have worried about it constantly, every month, every week, every day. What's worse? I'm not sure what the worst part is, but I know, and I've met people who have worried horribly without any reason to worry about running out of money. Now, I'll share a little story with you. I had a long time ago, I had this wonderful man and woman. They were really neat people. They were Depression kids, went through World War II, started with nothing, had known hunger, and had become really astute investors over time and accumulated a really wonderful retirement portfolio. And they were always worried about running out of money. And one of the things that this one gentleman would always do, he'd ask me, I think I need a new car. Do you think I have enough money to buy a new car? He had enough money to buy the car dealership, but in his brain, he wasn't sure. So I kept telling him, yes, you do. And he says, you sure? And yeah. So one day he actually went to the car dealership and bought a car. And he called me and I said, well, bring it by. Come on, bring it over to the office. I'll take a look at it because it sounds really good. And he did. He drove it over. Now, this is a guy that could have bought 50 automobiles without breaking the checking account. And he pointed all the things that it did. And one of the things he said really struck me. He said, Ron, I didn't get the leather seats. That was too expensive. And I said, Jake, you did good, man. But see, they had a bunch of money. I mean, they had an enormous amount of money. They never used it all. They ended up passing it on to their children and blessing them. But they were always concerned about that. I attribute a lot of that to them going through all the hard times, being a depressionary baby. But we still run into people today. I still meet them. And they have this fear of running out of money. And it's a terrible fear. So here's a way to solve that fear. Give us a call. Allow us to create an income plan for you in retirement. It's not about your lump sum, ladies and gentlemen. It really isn't. It's a simple question. Do you have enough income in retirement to retire? We can help create that kind of a plan for you so that you'll be able to answer it with a really strong yes. I have enough income in retirement to retire. You'll know that. So give us a call. If any of this so far has made any sense to anybody, or if it's tapped the nerve and says, I have thought about that, give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. I'll tell you, sometimes worrying about the future is worse than the future actually happening. Yeah. So let us take away some of that worry, okay?
Well, I think it's all about confidence, Ron. That plan provides for confidence, and confidence in retirement equals quality of life, the ability to go out and spend and enjoy your time and do the things that you always envisioned retirement to be about without fear of overspending or running out of money or running that well dry into the future. And that only comes through having that plan in place. And there at Ron Corser and Associates, it's one of the services that you provide is to design that initial plan or help people review their current plan. And again, the number, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to take Ron Corser up on that offer, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. But Ron, the Course to Retirement plan, it's a proprietary plan, simple, easy to understand language, a snapshot of where people are at, documenting their desires, their hopes and dreams, putting them in writing, and therefore those become goals, and then helping them outline the executable action items that they need to act on in order to achieve those goals. That is the Course to Retirement plan. And that plan itself, Ron, really does go a long way in building that confidence and that quality of life for retirement. That's a proprietary process there at Ron Corser and Associates.
Yeah, we do it in a way that perhaps is a little different than others. We don't do a top down, we do it a bottom up. What I want to know is how much money do you need every month coming in from every place? Protected money like Social Security, pensions, income, things like that, to maintain your lifestyle. Nobody in the world wants to have a reduced lifestyle in retirement. So that's the way we focus. What's on the bottom, we work up to it, find out how much you need. That's your real number, ladies and gentlemen. It's not, you go to a website or get on one of these places, put in all kinds of data, and it comes out and says, you need $1 million or $2 million to retire. We've been focusing on lump sum for so long, I think we miss the forest for the trees. The key in retirement is to have enough retirement income to retire. It's a whole different animal than saying, I have a big lump sum, because I go back to you, Peter, you got $10 million in the bank right now.
Feeling pretty good about myself.
I'm excited for you and I'm happy, but you've told me that you need $1 million a year to maintain your lifestyle. So you got 10 million saved, you're spending $1 million. Peter, I'm sorry to tell you, you don't have enough income in retirement to retire.
Ron,
So
have you ever seen that television show, The Lottery Ruined My Life?
Yeah.
These are people who had the baseline of spending prior to winning the lottery that absolutely would be reasonable. All expectations are, if you ever won the lottery, you would be set not only for your lifetime, but for generations. But somehow they get that big windfall. They win the lottery, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, like somebody from Michigan recently did. And then all of a sudden their lifestyle increases. That they haven't been used to it, but somehow they are finding a way to spend through that money. And at the end of just a couple of years, it's all gone. And now they've got a lifestyle that they're used to that they can no longer afford.
I had somebody come to me one time and they asked me, they were really serious. They said, what if I win the lottery? And I think the Powerball was worth $50 million at the time. And I said, well, when you hit the Powerball, I want you to remember us little people, because everybody in the United States in the financial services world is going to know who you are. And they're going to call you and want to be your best friend. But here's a piece of advice. This is what you do. You win 50 million, you give the state and the feds, say 20 million, and you got 30 million left over. Take $2 million, you and your wife, go away, get new cell phones, go somewhere. You're not allowed to come back until you spend all $2 million. In the meantime, we'll take the 28 million and we'll put it in a cash account. It won't earn zip, but when you come back, you'll have $28 million. And you will have used the 2 million to just do whatever it is you want. Buy a Mercedes, a Rolls Royce, go on a trip around the world, whatever you want. I think that's great advice, because it gets that, oh my goodness, we finally have the opportunity to do something out of your system. And then you can approach, how do I invest the bulk of my money in a rational way that takes care of us, my wife, my kids, our family, creates a legacy, those kinds of things. So there's a way to do just about anything. And if you're interested in this, call us, 616-301-2581. We've talked about the use of the need to and use of a plan. A plan can be anywhere from a 57-page document with 14 tabs created in glossy 4 color, or it can be simply as put on 2 pieces of paper showing all the money coming in, all the money going out, all the money left over, and do you have your lifestyle? So you get to choose how sophisticated and color coordinated the plan should be. But what you really want it to do is you want to make sure that it keeps you from going broke. Or the worst part, more might happen, is that it keeps you from having to just pull back on your lifestyle 10 or 15 years from now. That's what a good plan does. So one of the things that a good plan does, it keeps you focused on what you're doing every month, every year, but it makes sure that you don't draw too much of your life savings too early when you hit that wonderful thing called retirement. Now, when people get retired, all of a sudden, they always say, well, I don't have to get up at 4 a.m. anymore. That is a blessing. But now you got time on your hands and you have opportunity. What's the opportunity? Well, I can go do things now that I never did before. And I tell people that no matter how good a plan we cobble together, we're going to count on you spending a little more the first 2 or 3 years. So we built that into the plan. Yeah, we have your base, we have all your lifestyle taken care of, but you're going to spend a little more because all of a sudden you have the opportunity to do that. Maybe you get to take that trip you never could do or would do before. Maybe you get to spoil your grandchildren. There's a lot of things out there that you can do finally. So one thing a plan does, it keeps you from withdrawing or spending too much too early. Now you can always do it. It's your money. You can do whatever you want. But if you have a plan, it's kind of like guardrails at the bowling alley, isn't it? It keeps you kind of focused on where you want to go or what you want to do. So if you need to stay focused, we can help you with that plan. Give us a call at the office, 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. Be more than happy to help you.
Ron, we've talked on this program often about setting up a specific plan to generate the income and what goes into that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to hear the specific mathematical formula on that, go back a couple weeks in our archives. We talked about the income plan and the math behind it. Certainly worth a visit to roncourser.com to hear that. But Ron, if we are talking about the reasons that we might run out of money during that planning process, it seems like that would be a little bit of a pessimistic conversation there. And then your job is to identify all of those reasons. And those can really be a downer in that conversation, just speaking bluntly from the heart here. But that is your job. And the reason why it is so important is because we can plan to avoid those things. We can plan to address those things, and by talking them through, make them less likely to happen, which at the end of the conversation and the planning process, given that document that tells us specifically the steps to take on how to address those very scary, concerning issues, that's a much more uplifting psychological position to be in.
Yeah, and the other thing a good plan does is it accounts for the things that we can't account for, if that makes sense. What are the things we can't account for? Well, we can't account for having to fix our roof. There's $10,000 or $15,000. We can't account for the windows aren't working anymore in our house, and we need to replace the windows. I remember a long time ago, this just reminded me, we had old windows. We had a house that was made in 1969. We don't have an extravagant lifestyle. And we needed to get new windows. And the couple window guys came in and they both said the same thing when they were pricing. And they said, you don't have any standard size windows in your entire house. Now, I had no idea what that meant, except I thought it meant it was going to be more expensive.
Sounds like it to me.
And I was right. But whoever built this house without standard windows. So I paid more, a lot more, to put windows in the house. They were needed. And my thought was, who thought about this? Whose idea said, let's put in non-standard size windows in all the rooms in this house? What kind of plan is that? Well, somebody probably said, it's not my problem. I'm going to be miles away from this whenever it's sold. But the issue was, I never planned on, when we moved into our house, it seemed like a good idea to me and it was okay. I never planned on new windows. That was a long time, 15 years ago. We spent like $16,000, $18,000. I've talked to people, it's more today. Those are the kind of things that can kind of jump up and bite you when you're planning a retirement. Yeah, I got this nice house. I'm in good shape. We got a cottage. We're going to be fine. And all of a sudden, I need to replace all the windows. Well, there's maybe $15,000 to $25,000 you hadn't planned for. And if something like that, the flexibility is not built into the plan is going to fail. The plan cannot be so structured that every dime is accounted for. And if there's any deviation, if you spend $1 more, it's going to mess up the plan. I mean, we're human beings. Life is messy. I know it's messy. And we're in Michigan, and it's really messy here in winter. So we can't build a plan that has no flexibility in it. But a good plan gives you that flexibility. A good plan says, I don't know what's going to happen, but I bet it's going to happen. And when it does, it's probably going to cost me some money. So do I have a plan for, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be expensive? That goes into the plan too.
Well, again, we've got to have that plan in place at Ron Courser and Associates. They've got a proprietary process to put that specific plan, your course to retirement, the plan, the document in your hands. If you would like to get a copy of the simple, easy to understand, and have the resource to help you execute that plan, pick up the phone, give a call to Ron Courser and Associates now, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, we sort of breezed over them, but you hit on a couple things that I think could attribute to, and in fact, increase the potential of running out of money in retirement. And we've got to address those things specifically. So you mentioned it, the reasons that we might run out: spending too much too early. If we get to retirement and we've got that bucket list, let's go ahead and get it all out of the way in year one. That could be something that we need to figure out down the road. Again, we've gone through the math of this and we've talked about budgeting, but you've referred to it as a spending plan. And I kind of like that language a little bit more. Budgeting feels like I can't spend. A spending plan feels like I can. The spending plan you've talked about helps us understand at what pace we can accomplish those things and make sure that, years 1 through 5 of retirement don't jeopardize years 20 through 30.
It's a good point. One of the key questions we always ask in our initial meetings and in the planning process is, tell me what the big things you're going to spend money on the next 3 years. Sometimes people are a little calm at first, and then they rattle off 2 or 3 things. And I said, thank you. Now we have to include those items in the plan. And it's kind of amazing. Sometimes people go, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, it does make great sense. You plan for those big expenditures, because those big ones that we might call discretionary, like taking your family to Disneyland for 3 weeks, all expense paid, including the boat ride. Yeah, those are big things, and those are important money makers, or memory makers rather, for people. So you have to think through everything that you may or may not do, and you put that into the plan. Because ultimately, you want a situation, think about it now, you're working. You really have a plan right now. Those of you out there listening to today's program are still working. You have a plan. I call it an employment plan. You know that you're making X number of dollars every week, every month. You're taking care of taxes and all your bills. You're saving some money. And if you've done it okay, you got some money left over to go out and enjoy things whenever we get to enjoy things with this COVID thing here in Michigan. You already have that plan in place. The plan is based on one simple idea, that you will be able to continue to work every day until you decide to retire. That whole plan is based on that one premise, because we always think we're always going to be able to work. For most of us, that'll probably be true to a great extent, but there will be situations that happen that deal with health, that perhaps deal with death, that perhaps deal with separation from service, loss of a job, that have those things in common, that all of a sudden the current plan that you have doesn't work anymore because you're not bringing in enough income, and call it income and employment as opposed to income and retirement. You're not bringing enough income in employment. So you got to make some changes, don't you? What does that mean? You either got to cut back on your lifestyle or you got to go out and get a second job. Neither of those options are really great. Most people will do whatever it takes. And I admire that about most of the people, particularly people listening to today's program. You'll do just about what it takes. You're built that way. But wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to do just about anything that it takes? So when it comes to this whole thing, you plan for big expenses early, big expenses late. You don't want to withdraw too much money. You want to do it on a planned basis. You want to do those things that you're doing now. Now, I know there's people out there listening to today's program that said, and maybe I get this once in a while from the wife, well, he just went out and bought a brand new snowmobile and he didn't need it. Or he just went out and bought a new bass boat with a 225 horsepower engine on it, because those bass are running really quick these days. And I said, I understand that. There's a plan there somewhere. We can help, and we'll get to that. But you don't want it to be something like, oh my goodness, this wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. That's why working with us, even well before you're retired, because even if you're 45 or 50, we can do an income plan for you. Wouldn't it be nice to know, if you're 45 years old and the boss comes to me and says he loves me a lot, but not that much, I'm done this coming Friday. Wouldn't it be nice to know if you can make it? Wouldn't it be nice to know if you've done enough saving, if you've done enough investing, if you've managed your finances well, and you have a plan that says, okay, I can get through this. It wasn't part of what I was hoping would happen, but I can get through this. That's why sometimes a good plan started a lot earlier than 3 days before retirement. There's always a need for a good plan, and there's always a need for it to be based on income, not on the lump sum. You assume the lump sum, but you really live on the income. So whether you're 45 or 65, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You're never too early, you're never too late for an income plan, and we can help you with that.
They can put together that course to retirement plan for you. They're Ron Courser and Associates. Get a certified financial planner, a CFP's guidance and perspective on your situation and how to achieve your goals. No cost, no obligation. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, just for the sake of time here, we're about out of time for segment one. And in segment two, I really want to get into the solutions, but just to put some food for thought in people's minds on a few of the other reasons why we may run short or we may lose the confidence in retirement that we will have enough, that lump sum or that income will be sufficient. Again, we talked about spending too much too early, but then we also may have big expenses later in life. We may have reduction in sources of income. That can and does happen throughout retirement. Longevity is an issue. The market is turbulent, it's volatile. And if we're withdrawing during downtimes, inflation, taxation, all of these are reasons why we may lose a little bit of our confidence into and throughout the years of retirement. But there are solutions. We're going to talk about all of those issues when we come back, but we're going to talk about the solutions that are specific to each one here with Ron Courser on your course to retirement. So if this is a thought that has even crossed your mind, or if you just want a plan to help you identify how to be more efficient with your money, even if you don't need the income, the government may force you to take it, whatever the case is, how to leverage that and be as efficient as possible. Your course to retirement, that plan in your hands can help you with that. Pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. Quick break. We'll be right back with more with CFP Certified Financial Planner Ron Courser in just a moment. And welcome back. This is your course to retirement, Grand Rapids, your resource for that common sense approach to planning, the guidance and perspective on the complex financial world that we need in order to navigate it and chart our course through retirement is Ron Courser, president and founder of Ron Courser and Associates, a certified financial planner, a CFP, giving us his guidance and perspective on what we need to be doing and offering to put a plan together along with you, for you. If you are willing to invest some of your time, he's willing to donate his time. No cost, no obligation. Just pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581 to get that course to retirement plan in your hands, 616-301-2581. And today, Ron, talking about a big topic, really poll after poll, survey after survey, the number one fear of retirees, running out of money in retirement. Gonna recap here and talk just for the first couple minutes of this segment of the program on some of the reasons why that may happen. We identify the reasons why, and then, Ron, we can work on solutions, right?
We can, and it's easy to, I think, identify where potential problems might come from. You know, one of the things is we always assume while we're working, we're going to have income, but we could have a job change, healthcare change, something happen, and all of a sudden that income is somehow adjusted downward. Well, the same thing can happen in retirement. We can build a plan and all of a sudden, you know, the parts don't work. What might that be? Well, you invest in a bunch of dividend paying stocks and all of a sudden we go through a tough time and the companies you've been relying on for such a long time, they cut their dividend. That's a cut in income to you. You know, I remember prior to 2008, every retired person in their portfolio had General Electric. General Electric just kept paying increasing dividends over time. It was there to be ever. And then we ran into 2008, 2009. GE ran into enormous financial problems. They stopped their dividend, they cut it. And they've reinstituted it in some fashion, but it just ain't the same as it used to be. That was an enormous hit to some retirees, because they had planned their retirement on, well, GE is always going to be there. It's always going to be wonderful. The same thing happened in that crisis with General Motors. You know, people who bought General Motors bonds, well, GM is always going to be there. I absolutely lived that life. I mean, I'm from Detroit. My parents worked at the GE, the Cadillac plant in Detroit. My mom did 47 years there. My stepdad did 42. took a little time off for World War II. But I was raised in a time where, if a man could get into GM and get his 30 and out, you have it made. So when I got into this business, GM was always supposed to be there. It was always going to pay dividends. It was always going to be there. I met some people who had their entire life savings invested in General Motors bonds. I met a guy who lost over $250,000. The bonds went kaput. General Motors went out of business, and they came back. Kmart too. So sometimes those kinds of things in a crisis situation come back and really harm us, because the plan was based on a simple idea that seemed to work, but it stopped working. A simple idea that said these companies are always going to be there. And I think if we learned one lesson over the last 20 years, it's that no, there's no certainty that General Motors is going to be there or GM. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no certainty that Amazon is going to be there. I mean, it's a giant company right now, right? Taking over the world. But there's no certainty it's going to be there 10 or 20 years from now. So you have to kind of look at that and say, well, what can reduce my income? That can happen. Interest rates can fall. Look what the federal government, the Federal Reserve, has done to savers. We're so used to getting 4 or 5 or 6% on CDs at the bank. That's not happening anymore. That's probably not going to happen for a long, long time. Government policy has crushed savers. And yet you built a plan on, well, we're always going to get 4 or 5% on CDs, and now it's not working. So that's a real issue. People who invest in real estate. Well, real estate's always going to be there. And I remember hearing that all the time. Real estate never go wrong. And that's true on a long-term basis. But you can invest directly in properties and manage them yourself. And maybe you run out of tenants for a while, or you have a commercial building that is empty in today's environment.
Well, Ron, I
Wow.
remember 2007, 2008. A lot of people's property values fell significantly. A lot of investment property, the values fell significantly and couldn't be resold for the value that was needed. And commercial real estate, I think the wow that you just gave is kind of this last year with COVID gave us kind of a different perspective on the value of and the sustainability for some types of commercial real estate as well.
And what I'm pointing out is that these are not bad places to invest. You just have to be aware of the potential risk, and you have to somehow build a plan that takes into consideration those risks, the what ifs in life. So you have to look at that. The other part is what happens if in a married couple, one of the spouses die. If you had a pension, perhaps you set it up without a joint survivor annuity 100%, maybe the pension's reduced. You're certainly going to lose one Social Security benefit when one of the spouses die. So these are things that are important to take into consideration when creating the plan. Not to be morbid, not to be, oh my goodness, I just want to talk about bad stuff, but talk about the reality. Talk about the things life brings. We do that in our life every day. Even if we don't do anything about it, we plan for a whole bunch of different outcomes in our life. We can drive 112 miles an hour on an expressway in the summertime. We can do that. We can plan to do that. But we know that the outcome, the risk involved in that is substantial, any number of reasons. So maybe we'll do that for 2 miles and then we'll back off the gas pedal, or maybe we won't do it at all. But we take into consideration of those things. See, retirement planning and creating a great retirement plan is not so much different than the way you're living now working, if you have a plan. Now, if you're working and you have no idea how much money you spend, how much money you bring in, you really need our help. Please give us a call at 616-301-2581. We can help you, not to make a mess out of your life, but to kind of just put some guardrails on it and help you. So these are things that happen in life. We kind of do it while we're working. Let's carry over some of those same habits, and we can help you focus them on a great retirement plan. And the plan is flexible. The plan will give you your number, what you need, the retirement income in retirement to make sure your lifestyle is there. Give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581.
Again, 616-301-2581, or you can go online, roncourser.com. And of course, he's got the team there looking at both the health and the wealth side of planning, coordinating with other quality professionals throughout the area from a legal, from a tax standpoint, making sure that you're doing everything you need to get your plan squared away, providing Grand Rapids area savers and investors a lot of confidence moving forward into and throughout your financial future. And if you'd like to get your course to retirement plan in your hands, pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, the big one here is longevity. We are just living longer life spans than we previously were, and a lot of people dramatically underestimate how long they're going to be around. And we've talked about this before. I would rather plan to 120 and only make it to 85 than make it to 85 and not have then make it to 120 and only planned to through 85. Sorry, confusing there, but I'd rather have the plan extend longer than I need it for, is the bottom line.
It's always,
and a lot of people aren't doing that.
It's always good to assume that you're going to live a little longer than what you planned. We don't have, I hope I make it through the end of the day today. I understand that. But that doesn't make it easy for me to say, well, I don't want to plan because I don't know how long God's going to let me live. He could take me up today. No, that's not a rational thing to do. So you just take a look around and people say, well, I have clients that say, you know what? Nobody in my family made it past 68. And I say, don't say that. You're going to make it to 98. And I've had other people say, well, we got longevity in our life. Mom died when she was 137. Dad made it to 119. We're going to live that long. I hope that's true. One of the things that medical science has done is enable people to predict that because of all these so-called cures that we're going to come up with in the future, that we're going to be living longer. In some ways we are, but we all know that there are things going on in society today which can shorten life. And so whether we like it or not, those are some of the things we have to kind of think about a little bit. Just, we don't have to dwell on them. We don't have to make it something that's going to bring us great frustration. But we need to kind of think about those things. Come to things we think about living a long time. What I think about. It's easy for me. I'll just talk about my wife, Nancy, and me. I think about what's going to happen to her if God calls me home sooner than later. Have we done everything we can to make sure she'll be okay? She can reverse it and say, well, what's going to happen to me? I always joke. I got a good friend and a client down in Battle Creek, Michigan, and we always joke with each other. Guys are weird. We can just go out and live in the woods and eat tree bark. We're going to be just fine and dandy. But that's not necessarily true. So one of the things that I always worry about, and I guess it is a worry, is my wife Nancy taken care of? Is she going to be okay? Because there will be some things that change. We're going to lose the Social Security benefit. She's got a pension. It won't impact me. It won't impact her if I pass away. But we have to make sure that everything's okay, that we have the right medical care in place and things like that. I want to take care of my wife. I want to take care of my family. I want to be able to take care of my children and grandchildren. And I tell people this, and I guess I'll go off the rails just a little bit here. When I look around me, my biggest concerns in life are not what's going to happen to me and my wife, Nancy. It's going to be what's going to happen to my children and grandchildren. What's it going to be like for them? And so what we do sometimes in our own planning, because Nancy and I treat each other like clients. We just got done with our annual review meeting, and she always says, well, what do you think? And I said, I don't know. She said, well, you're my advisor. And I said, yeah, but you don't pay me enough. So what is it you want from me? But we always have that thing in the back of our mind, and we express it. I wonder what it's going to be like for them. So one of the things that we do, and I'm not saying anybody should do this, but we do, in addition to the financial nuts and bolts, is we always try to figure out how we can be the place of last resort for our grandchildren and even children. Because I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. I hope for the best, but You know, I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I see what's going on around us. It's kind of an interesting environment we're living in. So one of the planning things that we always talk about, my wife and I, is can we be the backstop if our children lose their jobs, if our grandchildren get sick? Can we be the backstop? That goes into what we plan as part of our plan. It's not the primary part, but it's something that colors and tailors things that we do so that we're able to do the things that are important to us. And this is, I guess this gets involved in the legacy part of planning, because there is a part to legacy planning, whether you want to leave a legacy or not. And that's the part that Nancy and I choose to do, that we have to be, we want to be in a position, not to enable bad habits, but to be able to say, okay, here's an island, here's a place where you're safe. So that's part of what we do, living a long time. And the other things that we have to take in consideration, and we know this, we know that if we are investors in the stock market, that we're going to experience good times and bad times. Everybody loves it when they look at their monthly statement and they have more money this month than last month. That is a great feeling. Nobody likes it when they look at their monthly statement and they have less money this month than they had last month. But part of investing in the stock market involves ups and downs. That has to be built into a plan. What do I mean by that? Think about this. You have two approaches. You can say, well, the stock market's averaged 7.1% for the last 110 years. That's an absolutely true statement. Absolutely true. It's averaged 7.1%. You will be hard pressed to find a single year that returns 7.1% because you're dealing with averages. From 2000, January 1st, 2000 to December 31st, 2010, the market was flat. It didn't go up. It went down, kind of went up, but it was flat. We call that the lost decade in our industry. So you can't always assume, well, I know the market always goes up 7, I can take 4. That's why when we do the planning, think about the way you live your life right now. You know how much money's coming in, and you know how much is going out. You know how much you can spend on food, shelter, everything like that. The same mentality applies in retirement planning, except when you start to get close to retirement, you're not sure how much income you're going to have in retirement. That's why we're so valuable to people. We can help you figure out how much income you can get in retirement from all sources, savings, Social Security, pensions, and everything, so that you know where you stand before you have to pull the plug, so to speak, on employment. We can help you with that. So we know the markets are going to go up and down. So do we have the flexibility built into the plan to still keep giving you your income, even if the market goes down 5 or 10%? You can't build a plan that's based on never having a loss in the stock market. That's irrational. That really is, and it's frightening.
Well, and
you
then
can't
Ron,
build a plan like that.
compound on top of that, withdrawing money when the market is going sideways or flat or up and down. And that's really, I mean, you talked about real world scenarios here. We've got to address the real world. There's a couple things there. The market is volatile. We need income. Over time, we likely need more income. Inflation is one of these factors. And then a big one right now that we're all sort of paying attention to with bated breath is, what is the impact of taxes? How much of my lump sum and savings do I actually get to keep? And how is that going to change into the future? This is why that plan is so important, and why not only is it important to have, but it can't be set it and forget it. We've got to update that plan on an ongoing basis.
Well, we have to make sure we think in terms of flexibility when creating the guardrails for our plan. We have to be able to do that. So we know that markets are kind of volatile. Sometimes people come in and I meet them for the first time and I ask them to tell me about your investment strategy, your plan. And what I hear a lot of times is, well, I'm diversified. And I try to be kind and say, well, what does that mean? And it's hard to define because nobody's defined it for them. Well, I got some stocks and I got some bonds and stuff. I understand that. But I tell people, you may not be working with us, but you should work with an advisor who takes the time and effort to explain what it is you're investing in, what it is you own, why you own it, and what it's expected to do. You know, sometimes I'll say, well, tell me about losing money in the market. How do you feel about that? Well, I don't like it. Well, good. That makes you a rational human being. Tell me about when last time you talked to your advisor and you ask him how much risk is in your retirement plan. What did he say? And he said, well, not too much. And my response always is not to be hurtful, but what does that mean? Not too much. Does that mean you'll lose when the market goes down again? You lose 5%, or will you lose 55%? That's why when you create a plan, and part of it's with the investment part of it, you need to make sure that you have an advisor who cares enough about you to tell you why you're doing what you're doing, what it is you own, how it's supposed to work, so you can measure results and what it's supposed to do for you. I mean, you work with a guy who'll spend the time. We spend time. I tell people, bear with me. I'm a bit of a geek. I'm going to go into the weeds a little bit, explaining why this thing you own is a good idea for you. So just kind of work with me here. And if I get too far off track, throw something at me and I'll come back into reality. But it's important that you know things. You know, we always know when we buy a house, you walk through that house and you want to know, is the roof good? Is the furnace good? You know, is the structure okay? How much is it going to take to make it our own? You have ask all those questions before you buy. You should ask all those questions in a retirement plan. Every one of them. How is this going to work? What's going to happen if the market goes down 20%? What's going to happen to my income? What's going to happen to my income if the market goes up 20%? What's going to happen to my income if taxes go up? What's going to happen to my income if healthcare issues or healthcare just gets more expensive? You need to know answers to those in creating the plan, because all of those things are probably going to happen. There's going to be changes in the cost of healthcare. There's going to be changes in taxes. There's going to be inflation. There's going to be lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, it's going to happen. So you need to have that built into the plan. It's part of the planning process. It's what we do. Give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Planning is not something you do in 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. There's a process we have, and we walk everybody through the very same process every single time, so we don't miss a beat. So we uncover everything that needs to be uncovered, and we consider everything that might happen. Now, no plan is perfect. That's why there has to be kind of a built-in, you might call it a fire alarm, that you can hit and figure out how to reposition your life and finances when the world comes to an end. And a great example of that was last year, man, when the COVID shut everything down. Whew, that was a scary time. Praise the Lord that we've kind of bounced back a little bit, but we're still not out of the woods. So there's a lot that goes into it. So give us a call, 616-301-2581.
Ron, can we spend the last few minutes of this program talking about the tax environment and that changing, evolving world there that we're fearful might be taking a bigger bite out of our savings than once expected and what we had planned on. And therefore, through the planning, a few of the strategies that you have helped people identify that can allow them to keep as much of their money as they thought, or maybe more than what we would anticipate. I know that last week we talked about 6 stealth taxes, and it was pretty enlightening as we were talking about those things. But again, these are concerns on the top of people's minds, not only because of what's going on in the world, but it is tax season. So I think recognition of the fact that taxes are one of our largest known expenses, and they could be getting even larger, is step one in being proactive in the planning process.
Yeah, I think it's necessary to talk about on today's program taxes, and to talk about it in the reviews that we do with clients and with people we meet for the first time. It's out there. It's not the 900-pound elephant in the living room. It's the 900-pound elephant that's been in your backyard for the last 30 years. And it just seems to want to eat more and more. Those elephants are weird.
Well, Ron, I know that you help people given situations that are specific to them, identify some of these strategies that can maybe take less of a bite out of their savings. So as we're talking about this concern of running out of money or running low on money, one of the best things that we can do is be proactive in making sure that those taxes, and specifically potential tax law changes into the future, are not impactful on our long-term planning. Are there any ones that right now are top of mind for you that we could look at or be proactive in considering for our situation?
Well, let's take a look at what we think is coming down the road. That's already been uh, kind of written in stone, or at least semi-stone here for a while. I'm going to preface by this. Taxes are an interesting subject to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand that ultimately only human beings, Americans working, living in America, pay taxes. Corporations may pay a tax, but that tax is passed along to us as consumers. We ultimately are the piggy bank for the government. Doesn't matter what direction the money comes from or goes through. We're the piggy bank. So if we're going to be a piggy bank, we might as well figure out what we might anticipate coming. We've already been told that probably corporate taxes are going to increase from 21 to 28%. What will that do? I don't think Apple's paid any taxes in the last 5 or 6 years. So those companies aren't going to be impacted one way or the other. And the really frustrating thing for me, and I know I don't want to get off the rails too much, I get really frustrated when I hear elected officials scream and jump up and down about these companies not paying taxes. You're the elected officials are the ones that created the tax rules. If you want them to pay tax, change the rules. It's really simple. But don't try to convince me that I should vote for you, so to speak, because you're going to do something about them paying taxes. You guys say that every year and it never happens. So we know corporate taxes are going to go up, and we know some companies will pay more in tax. So what else is going to happen? They're talking about income and payroll taxes going up. Particularly, they talk always about it, the highest people. It can go anywhere up to as high as 52%. But understand this, no matter where the taxes start, they always come down to the middle class, always, because that's where the big money is in America. It's with the middle class. It's not with those 1%ers, the Davos crowd. They don't have as much money as the middle class. So taxes always come down. So when an elected official says, vote for me, and not only raise taxes on those evil rich people, here's the key question to find out if you're rich, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real simple question, yes or no. Do you have money? If the answer to that is yes, you are potentially one of those people that's going to be taxed. So payroll taxes are going to go up. Small business taxes, we have a small business here. We know that we're going to pay more. And I don't know how exactly we're going to have to deal with that. But they're also talking about changing the capital gains and dividend taxes. They have a lot in mind here. Now think about this. When taxes go up, no matter in what fashion, shape, or form, we always end up paying for it, either directly or indirectly. So what are the things that we can do, whether we're 45 or we're 75? If you plan on living longer than say through next week, there are things you can do going forward that'll help give you a little bit of tax relief. And these are some of my favorite ones. The first one is it has to do with your required minimum distribution, the RMDs. Now, they made the rule change that you don't have to take them until you're 72. So one of the things you can do when you're 70 and a half or 72 is instead of just taking your requirement distribution out and paying tax, you can send it on to a charity. And that includes a church, if you're a tither, or animal shelter, whoever. So what that does is it complies with what the government wants you to do, but it doesn't increase your income and you don't pay tax. So you can minimize your tax that way. A second way to deal with this on a long-term basis is maybe do some gifting. You know, we're allowed to give away $15,000 a year to anybody. Peter, you can give me part of your $10 million, 15,000 of that, and we're going to be fine. You can do that for the next 10 or 12 years, okay? But you can start to do that. That means you can give away cash, and you can have somebody invest it, but you can kind of minimize what potential taxes may come from that. In the third place, one of my favorite strategies, and it involves a little more thinking, is to create a Roth strategy. To take money that's in a taxable account, an IRA, 401k, 403b, and go from going to be forever taxed at a higher and higher rate to put it in an account. I'm going to pay tax one time on that penny, and I'm going to put it in a tax-free account. Now, if you have $1 million IRA, chances are you don't want to convert $1 million in 1 year, but you do a strategy, you convert a piece of it. Whether you're 45 or 75, if you think you're going to live longer than 5 or 10 years, this makes great sense to talk to us about creating a Roth conversion strategy if you don't already have one. If you're still working, you can still put money into a Roth account. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. There are things you can do now to minimize taxes going forward, to what you pay in tax going forward. We can help you, 616-301-2581. Give us a call, please. Let us help you.
Well, on today's program, we talked about not running out of money in retirement. No one wants to run out of money in retirement, but unfortunately people still do. And a lot of this problem can be boiled down to lack of planning, lack of understanding of how to prevent that issue, not knowing the issues that can attribute to it. So on today's program, we discussed some of those issues for you to be aware of, and then made the offer to get that plan put together so that you can address those issues. And at Ron Courser and Associates, they put those plans together. Your Course to Retirement will identify and address many of these risks and issues, and then identify opportunities for you to address them. Pick up the phone and give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, always an information-filled hour on Your Course to Retirement with you. However, the time moves by quickly and there's never enough time to get to all of the issues. That's why we need to be proactive in our planning. Take that next step. Give a call, ladies and gentlemen, to Ron Courser and Associates. Get that plan in your hand. 616-301-2581. Visit online, roncourser.com. And Ron, we always appreciate your guidance here on the program.
Well, it's been fun. I enjoy talking about these things, but I enjoy more helping people take advantage of them. Bless you this week. We'll talk to you next week here on the same station, same time.
Tune in to Ron Courser's full radio program, A Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on WOOD, and visit roncourser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.